Okay, so I'm making another video today, as you can see, and I didn't plan on it, but you know, we're human beings, spiritual beings. That's the way of separating us from, the artificial domain that we are now living in. So we're human beings, spiritual beings in a physical body, in an artificial domain. Now, obviously, I'm getting confused here as usual. And, I'm making more videos because I think the time is running out. Now, I made the last video, and make of it what you will, and I wonder what I make of things myself. But look, the videos are very over the place, and they're not meant to be. They're meant to be, originally, like I was going to make videos on each separate subject, like a movie or a specific idea. And today I was going to make a movie about nature in what I now realise is a totally artificial world. Now, see, this artificial world that we live in, is hard to get your head around. Or at least it is obviously hard for me to accept. But I accept it because it's true, because it's real, because I'm shown it every day. Now, this is the problem with some people, obviously, and I don't know how much problem it is with people. I don't know. Look, I was going to make the video about nature and what I would consider natural life, which we just assumed that everything was natural life, that most of the world was natural, but we had an invasion of technology which we ourselves choose to use. This is not the case, I don't think, at all, not at all. See, I was going to make the video on nature and animals. In fact, specifically, I was going to make the video before, only when I got up, okay? In that subsequent time, I decided to, I'm just explaining where these, I don't know why, I shouldn't be explaining where the videos come from, I know, and I'm wasting time, but look, that's what's happened to the videos now. They're no longer coherent, they're now just a conversation between a few people, and that's about it, so it doesn't matter. Yes, it doesn't matter, and that was exactly what I heard coming off my TV screen when I turned it on a few hours ago to reminisce, shall we say. I don't know why, but I just got this idea that I'll play the human song again. Are we human, or are we dancer or dancers, etc.? And even now I cannot concentrate on it. I just played it again for some reason, and I played it a couple of times on the YouTube. Now, strangely enough, I was familiar with, as I mentioned before, this group called The Killers before the Human Song. I knew most of their songs except their best song, called Human, which is interesting. I had missed that one years ago because, yes, I used to, even though I was not that young, I had always made myself feel young by always listening to all the latest music. I've subsequently stopped doing that in very, very recent times. Apart from when I want to keep in touch with whatever and to see what's going on, because I've had to check these things out to verify in my own mind only how true, my idea of what this reality now is by verifying it, by looking at what is in front of me and what the demigods present. Now, so I went back onto the Human song, which I've done a video on before, rather poorly, I thought, because it has so much just in the lyrics to clarify it. It's very clear. But anyway, I'm going to say that I was familiar, like I say, with some of the other songs. But even with them, this is, I don't know how other people, and I choke on the word a bit these days, but look, I don't know how, because we are in the end of things. So when you say people, you don't know the numbers. But if I look at the old videos, and particularly if you watch a video that's live where you see an audience, of adoring fans, of worshippers of the demigods, relating to those demigods, believing that the demigods speak the truth, and they do speak the truth. Of course they speak the truth, because the truth comes from non-demigods. As I've said before, the demigods take the truth from, people that are insignificant and not recognised and non-players on the world stage, if you want to look at it that way. Now, I don't know what I'm talking about here. Oh, yes, I do know what I'm talking about. It's just that I don't put it right, that's all. But I know what I'm talking about. And those that listen know that it's true too. But we're all in a state of, particularly myself. And yes, I am finding it rather hard, I admit that, and I shouldn't be making the videos under these circumstances. Because I was clear to make a video, like I say, a few hours ago, on natural animals' life in this matrix. And then I got sidetracked after watching a couple of old music videos and getting all angry, shall we say, after watching. Now, so, I prefer to do it on movies because I can keep clear. The music, when I watched, I just let the thing play, and so it played other videos of this same group, called The Killers, that supposedly wrote the Human song. Now, I'm not going to go into who wrote what or this or that, okay? All I'm going to say, and I know this to be so, because I think it, I see it, and then it becomes real. So it is like verified for me personally. Now, this is where each person, if people, when I say people, I mean human beings, spiritual beings. Okay, I'm going to say that because not all people, the demigods are not the same as you and me. Assuming you and me are the same. I'm assuming that you're the same as me, but I wouldn't know because I assumed the demigods were the same as me, except that they were more talented, rich and famous, had the gift of creativity. This is not true. This is not true. The demigods do have gifts. They do not have the gift of creativity, as has been pointed out to me, and this I know to be so. I have known it for a long time. When I say a long time, I mean like say 2 years. But even then I didn't really emphasize the demigods, but I knew that that a human being's thinking was reflected in the matrix or in this artificial world. Of course I didn't know how artificial it was at that time even. I now realise that it is much more artificial than what I even originally thought. Because, like I say, you can assume that you're a natural being in an artificial domain, all this sort of stuff. Now, look, I do not know the full answer to that. When I do, I might discuss it if I can. But it matters not, in a sense. It matters not, in a way. This I do know. This I do know. This I do know. That there are still, in this artificial domain, some authentic, real, original, totally human beings. That doesn't make any sense, I know, and it sounds stupid to say it because you'd say, aren't we all totally human beings? Well, the demigods aren't. Those that operate and have dominion over the matrix, and indeed are the matrix, are not. They are the matrix. The gods of this world, if I can put it that way, and like I say, even as I say it, I don't know what I'm saying myself almost. I'm like, what am I saying? Look, the gods of this world, those that create this world, that is not true either. See, I just automatically, this is why it is such a minefield for me, for a video, and in my life. Much more in my life. The videos are, I wouldn't be making the videos at all if this world was even remotely normal, remotely human, remotely real. Wouldn't be making them. I'd say, there's still a chance, and either way, I'm not that desperate, but I am desperate. And I can't tell you how desperate I actually am, and how difficult it is for me at this time dealing with the going down of this world, literally. That's how I actually see it. I actually see it as the going down of this world, but of course it's not a real world anyway, it's a matrix. The going down of my delusion, really. Yeah, the breaking down of my fantasy, and I make fantasy video, or the breaking down of, if you like, the cognitive dissidence or the separation from the truth that we've all had. It's not a pleasant experience, and especially when the Matrix is opposed to you for this and is fighting in desperation for its survival too, in a funny kind of way. That's how it feels, and that's how it is. Exactly why is for everyone to figure out for themselves to some extent. I've tried to piece it together a bit in the videos, but it is sinking fast. It's going down very fast now, the Matrix. But is it the Matrix that's going down, or is it, like I say, my disintegration of my illusion of what the world was, if I can try to concentrate and put it clearly. Now, it's all happening at once. Like, I just got this a few hours ago, okay? Of course, I've said it for a while, but I haven't really, it doesn't click over completely. Like, sometimes it just hits you in the face even more because you see it on the TV. Like, I was watching these videos, they just let them roll, of this same group. And you know, like, for instance, I'll just, because haven't watched this group for a long time, and actually I'm not familiar with all their songs. Yes, I was familiar with a song called Mr. Brightside. You know, these demigods, they are the same as from the beginning in a way, which I've only realised recently. This duality of form that is presented to us in an enticing form by the demigods, that's how I can only put it. Look, I'm not even thinking here, I'm just saying, it's just, look, these demigods, this is just how I personally, this is purely personal, so take it as a grain of salt. I hope that you can be less emotional and less personal about it. But these demigods, now at a personal level, I say they cannot lose in their seduction of us, because they're presenting a form. It's an unnatural form, but it is very seductive to us as human beings, and always has been. It's the seduction of, it's an hypnotic seduction. I can't describe it. I only know that I have fell for it over a lifetime in an artificial form. It's artificial. It is not natural. I would now say it's not a benefit to a human being at all, but it is irresistible. Because it entices and confuses and hypnotizes all in one. I can't describe it, but you know what I mean, because we've all seen it over a lifetime. It's almost the fascination with something you don't understand that's different. But it appears superior because it's taken the best from you and it comes in a form that also has elements that are close to you and that are very appealing to you, depending on each person, like each person. That's why there's so many demigods, to appeal to the different, I was about to say idiosyncrasies, but that's not the right word. Once again, I'm lost for the words, the little, the little finer points that each person might find appealing, that draws them into that person's type of thing, to that, when I say that person, that image. It's not a person, it's an image. It's a false, it's an illusion, really. It's a contrivance, it's a collaboration, it's a combination of the best of what you would like, all rolled into this duality form. I don't know if I'm making sense here, because I'm trying to be fancy, but at the same time I'm also trying to express what I actually think, but at the same time, like, I can visualise it, I can see it myself by putting it into words, and so that you, I know that most of you that listen know what I'm saying, but I'm making a video, so I have to try to make some sense. Now look, I was watching the videos, and I'm going on about this one group. It's a bit like going on about one movie, because you have to focus, and also I just watched it for a few, for about an hour. I watched some of the videos. I was actually able to too. And Matrix is strangely quiet today. Of course, when I say today, this is only for a few hours. I have no doubt that it will rev itself up if I step outside, and it really does rev itself. But that's also because I'm conditioned to that revving up too. That's another thing too, I will say that. Like, if you're conditioned to sound, or you've been sensitised to sound, to sight, like the old Twilight TV series used to say, this is a world of sight and of sound, or an illusion of sight and sound, or it was like implying in the Twilight Zone that it wasn't real, that it's just a world of your imagination. But this is all real now. At least it is for some of us. It is real for everyone. It's just that maybe not everyone's seeing it, or maybe everyone isn't meant to see it, but also maybe everyone is not the same, and some people see it, but they see it differently, or they like it. In other words, they accept it, they like it. They don't see this world the same way that I do, or that maybe you do. They don't see it as everything in opposition to you. I see the world now as everything in opposition to myself as a person. Everything, what I used to see a few years ago as mildly annoying, or even, that also is the beauty of the human being. And that's interesting too, because this group just come to me. One of their songs or one of their tours or something was Life is Beautiful, which is also a movie which I've never watched. But, it was an Academy Award-winning movie. The only one I haven't actually watched, for the obvious reasons if you're familiar with it. As you can see, I don't like harsh reality. And I actually don't. but I'm forced to confront it now at this late stage. And this is why I'm having difficulties, no doubt, because I always lived in my own world of my own mental anxiety, and I didn't see the outside world as opposing me. I saw my internal world as more of an opposition. Now I see the external world as more of an opposition. Yes, I still have my internal battles. I still have my addictions and my foibles, which unfortunately, if I had got rid of those, the internal world would be clear. It's becoming clear now. The reality and the truth of things, and what is correct and what isn't. But unfortunately, the matrix and the external world is becoming the instead of the enemy. That's saying the enemy within, shall we say? Well, it's now the enemy from without. Now, whether that is because your internal world has become expressed outwardly, that's interesting. I was going to go off onto a movie which was recommended. Yeah, look, I'm all over the place here. I'm so sorry. Too much coming in, and I need to slow down. But anyway, the life is beautiful thing, okay? That very idea that human beings, even under diabolical circumstances or faced with extinction, faced with facing their greatest fears, which is usually extinction or death, whether that be of your physical body, which is largely what the matrix conditions us to fear, is the death of our body. Not so much the death of our mind or the spirit, as they say. But the life is beautiful kind of idea is really talking more about the spirit, because it's like saying that even under negative circumstances, the spirit is still trying to be positive, even faced with death. That's kind of like what the movie was. I have not watched the movie because, like I say, too negative for me, perhaps too truthful. But don't forget, everything is of the matrix, as I've said before. So everything is like the song and like that group saying life is beautiful. And then if you listen to the songs, and I just listened to a couple, I can't remember what they were, but look, I myself say this all the time, don't I? So the matrix takes human idea, puts it into a song, the demigod sings the song, you relate and worship and idolize and think the demigods are the real person. They're not. They are takeover. They're takeover of... They need that. They want to take you down with them. They want to take you down. They want to take you over, take you down to their world. They have infiltrated in this mind matrix. This is why it is the end. This is why the cage is closed. Because the human being cannot protect itself from this artificial mind invasion. You cannot stop your thoughts from being stolen. You cannot stop your feelings from being stolen. You cannot stop your emotions from being stolen. You cannot stop your ideas from being stolen by the matrix, by the demigods, by the rulers of the matrix, by the controllers of the matrix, by the operators of the matrix, by the matrix mind entity collective. That is the matrix. It is your world. You know, it is being taken over in the blink of an eye, literally. The thought becomes a reality instantly now. And this is not, but it is not a human, but humans are connected to the matrix, not to one another, not to a real world. That is the battle, if you look at it that way. I don't know if I put that right. Probably not. But either way, I listened to one of the songs and like the lyrics of one of the songs of this group called The Killers, and they are killers. They are killers. They are the seductive killers. They're a killer of you, me, because they, how should I describe it? They're like, there's a movie called The Killers too. Because that is how they see things. They are grabbing you. They are taking you captive. You're their slave. They're captive. I don't know how to put it. I'm having difficulty putting it right. And obviously I'm stressed and sweating, even though it's cold. Okay, so one of the lyrics that I noticed on the video, and the visuals of the video actually, in a simple way, which I like, explain it too. You know, the one of the lyrics is, I have a soul, or I am a soul, but I'm not a soldier, which is pretty much like I always say in my videos. In other words, that, oh, well, look, you know, I'm not prepared for this game. I don't want to be in this game. But I do believe in now, you know, I do believe in the only natural life forms in the matrix, which is us. When I say us, I don't know how many, and I don't know who. You know, even the demigods, you know, like, see, I don't want to confuse things by talking about the demigods and saying how much, you know, how different they are from us, or how much the same they are. That's for each person, I suppose, to decide. I've for the purpose of the videos, and even in my own mind now, I do see the demigods as very separate from human beings and a negative force for human beings. You know, they're like this world we live in, where you're married, as I've said before, you're married to your husband and you're really married to a psychopath. This person does not love you at all. This person uses you. This person loves what it can get out of you. Might love you for your money, might love you for for your finer qualities. It uses your qualities. I've encountered these people. I have known them over a lifetime. They don't change, most of them. They're drainers and users of your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas, as are the demigods. The only difference between the demigods and the psychopath that you meet on the street or that you engage with, and you're forced to because their numbers are so vast that, and also you can't tell the difference. You don't find out that someone is a covert psychopath. And I say covert because they are undercover. They're not exposing themselves. It's only if you get the 1 in a billion, and I say 1 in a billion, I don't know if that number's correct, but that actually exposes themselves, that you become then very aware of what they actually are, because as I've said before, that's like a textbook example then, and then you can clearly see what you've been dealing with over a lifetime. But that is rare. Most people deal with covert, undercover, spies, psychopaths, narcissistic, psychopathic people that basically, I was actually left a link on one of my videos to look at a little short video, and of course I did, and basically it just openly said on this link from a subscriber, I won't name it because they may or may not like that, I'd have to ask. Narcissists are not real people. That was the video, and he explained why. So narcissists and psychopaths are not real people. They're not real in the sense that they have no realness about them. They don't have any real ideas of their own. They don't have any real feelings of their own. See, all these things that I talk about, which we took for granted as human beings, they are literally the soul of the matrix. I have a soul, but I'm not a soldier. I don't know where I'm going with that. But we're humanity, the little bit of humanity that's left, because I have to use that word humanity, and I say the little bit that's left, they're being used, their humanity is being used by the matrix, just as the psychopaths and the narcissists use the humanity of humans too. They don't have that because they've separated from themselves. As the video explained from very early, they are very much like the Matrix in that sense. The only difference between the average psychopathic narcissistic person or apparent person, when I say apparent person, because I'm saying people now, I use that word to describe spiritual human beings. The difference is the spirit, okay? That's the only word I can find. Because the spirit has the feeling and the emotion and the ability for the thinking to create the reality. The Matrix demigods have captured that. They captured, when I was watching this video of this group singing to a huge audience, you could see the demigod stealing before your eyes the emotion and the love, the admiration, the adulation, the adoration. False gods. False gods. These demigods are false gods. Your singers, your entertainers, your actors, your movers of the Matrix, your stage players of the Matrix, your world famous people, whatever field they're in. I don't care what field they're in, and I don't care what level they're at too, because it does go right to the bottom now, because we are in the end times. So it comes down to the same as someone like myself making a video. You know, if you got more than a few people watching, you know, you could be the lower form demigod because it's got to that stage because there's so few humans left, I would think. That's how I think. That's because it's at the end. It's folding up fast. Everything is escalating. That's how I felt today, which was why I got a bit, you know, I haven't got it together, to be honest. You know, you need to have it together at this time. You need to be very firm in what you are and what is the truth and what this matrix and what is outside the matrix and what you believe in and where you come from. You've got to be firm on this. See, I have not been. This has all just happened to me over the last couple of years. And it's went down very fast in the last 12 months. A lot more so-called revelation, a lot more so-called insight, a lot more clarity, and a lot more of the reality slapping you right in the face too, because as you progress, the matrix will progress too. You know, if you stay in fairyland, the matrix will let you stay in fairyland and will back off a bit. But if you don't stay in fairyland, if you you know, like I say, you know, that song, A Soul, but not a soldier, and certainly there's no soldier, and I despise all that kind of word even, and that whole thing. Because the Matrix laps that up. The Matrix likes the fighting, the Matrix likes the battle, the Matrix likes you to engage in that soldier activity. But unfortunately, you know, like I say, you're still in that battle. So you're in that end game time scenario, you know, game. And even the chess game, as was pointed out in the video, is really a battle between two opposing forces. So, you know, if you're, so, you know, you like I say, you're in it whether you like it or not, just in the reality that it's all going down fast, it's folding up, it's coming in, it's happening in the blink of an eye, it's all happening. The matrix is consuming the human thought and the human. This is what I realized just a few hours ago, because I knew this was happening, but it is happening at an accelerated rate, which was why I got a bit distressed, shall we say, and jumped on to make the video. You know, the Matrix, you know, what appears to be the past, like when I looked at that song. You know, I'm a soul, but I'm not a soldier. No, they are not souls, but they are soldiers. See, it's reversed around because it's the demigods and it's a matrix. So when they sing they're a soul but not a soldier, no, it's reversed around. They are the soldiers and you're the soul. You know, they use, they want that, they need that humanity to make their music. They don't have the humanity really, but they have talents. They're a matrix, a mastermind, mind control matrix collective. It's a mind, it's a takeover, and they have already taken over. That's the realization, that's the revelation. And that's the tragedy. But, some of you might say, well, that's how it's meant to be, and you're prepared for it, you're accepting of it, and you may even not find it so negative. Obviously, I'm having trouble with that. That's true. And that is not how it should be. You should, these things you should be prepared for a lifetime if it's going down like it is now. But I have not been prepared, so I make the videos and just put it out there that way. And I'm not putting this video right. I should stick to the songs perhaps, because if I use them for an example. Yes, there is another song by this group. I should have these songs playing or in front of me so that I can get my thoughts clear. But I don't mind if you don't mind. Yes, they don't mind if you don't mind. They don't mind. They read your mind. Yes, the song is, I don't mind if you don't mind. Read my mind. Read my mind. Over and over again, read my mind. Look, these when a human listens to these songs, when a real person listens to the songs, they relate to this. They think it's about a relationship between a boy and a girl, maybe, or something like that, a love relationship. And they're in love with themselves, as they should be. But instead they're in love with the demigod, because the demigod is projecting all your thoughts, all your feelings, all your needs back to you. And so you love the demigod, the matrix, an artificial control system that has taken you and this earth over. Of course, it is not probably a real earth anyway. I do realise this. Sadly, I do realise this, so so don't take me literally on that. It doesn't really matter in a way, but, that's the knowledge that we're deprived of. Whether this is good or bad, I don't know. The way I'm dealing with the truth that I do get, or the facts that I do get, or the reality that I do get is so hard that I wonder if you can deal with the reality of a non-reality, or of a non-earth, or the loss of that. It is a great loss. It's even in that human song, when I think of it, it is the everything of the matrix is throwing back at a human being, but using a human being while throwing back the truth, the reality right in your face. It's very hard to explain, but it's like it's like making fun in a way. You do feel that you're being laughed at, and you are. The satisfaction that the matrix gets out of this takeover, out of you idolising and worshipping what is really yours and putting it onto the God and the matrix, instead of going back in and saying it is you, it is yours, it is the few human beings that are the real. If we're going to talk about gods and demigods, it's like someone said to me, like I am reluctant to use that word God. It simply means something that is a creator. So it is not wrong to say that a human being, a real human being, is the true God of the matrix. It's not wrong to say that. Of the matrix. I emphasise that. A real human is the real true source, the real true God of the Matrix, in the sense that everything that the Matrix projects, everything that is of this world, has been taken from the suppressed few human beings that are left in this mind control matrix, if you want to look at it. So at the matrix level, they are the gods of the matrix, but they are not the acknowledged gods of the matrix. In fact, rather, it's a reverse world. So they are actually not only not acknowledged, but being, as the matrix takes further and further over, the humans are eliminated, pushed out of the matrix, destroyed, limited in their ability to even project at a real level, like myself or anyone else, in the real world. You have no input whatsoever. You know, I make a video, but that's allowed because I'm making it to those who already think the same. You know, if I was making it to people who did not think the same, the video would, you know, I don't think the videos would be, you know, they have to be, everything has to be of the matrix. But if it's already if it's already like, oh, with some people, oh, we can't push them back into the matrix, then it's okay for you to talk to, it's all right for a converted, a bit like the old saying, it's okay for the converted to preach to the converted, because nothing's changed. You know, like if I talk to someone who thinks the same as myself, nothing changes. It's good for you, maybe. It might be good for me to do that. In my case, it's a bit of a need and a bit of desperation, and it's all the left. It's the last semblance of any communication with anything real, and yet it's not real because it's on a device. There's no real vibration. There's no real connection. I know it reaches someone that I don't see, that I don't know, and I'm not sure, you know, 100% how, oh, jeez. Oh, you know, that's just the matrix making a little bang there. But these sort of things do go into your mind. See, you know, your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and your ability to create the reality is still there, even at this late stage, but it is totally manipulated and taken over by the matrix. So, and the human physical level is pushed down to where even low you, in fact, you know, if you're hurting, as we are literally hurting, literally bleeding to death in this matrix. That's how I feel. And that hurting and that bleeding is energy for the matrix. It is fuel for the matrix. So even dying, a human being, is fuel still for the matrix. In fact, they're probably getting more fuel and more emotion and more ability to control the matrix, like it says there, I'm a soul but not a soldier. This is from us. Because they don't think that way. They don't think that they're a soul. They don't think that they're a feeling human being. They've cut that cord, as the human song said. You know, close your eyes, clear your heart, cut the cord. We've cut the cord from that because they worship and are of a different species, a different a different faith, almost you could say, a different belief system, a different I can't use the words. It's a different. It's a different way of looking totally at what you are, where you're going, what you hold to be important, authentic, or oh dear, I can't explain it. I'm just totally lost for words. I can't explain it. Well, like in that video when it says, are we human or are we dancer or denser? The denser is also of the matrix. The denser you are, the more you are of the matrix. The matrix takes you down, you are heavy, you are dense. The more spiritual you are, the lighter you are. And that's why it says denser sometimes in the lyrics as opposed to dancer. The dancers are dense beings, but they're dancers because they have filled themselves with human false emotion, but they use it. They have great intellect. The matrix, God, entity, and its beings, are able to take the human thought in the blink of an eye, almost before you think it. This is because it is speeded up. We were warned about this. This takeover type thing by the demigods themselves. Because then when it all goes down, the demigods are still the heroes. They're still the demigods, because even in a difficult time, and that's what's happening even now. So those that are not aware of this kind of situation, particularly if you're very young, and like I say, you listen to a beautiful music, you look at a demigod that is confusing and beguiling you at the same time. Beguiling you mainly, but confusing you at a subconscious level, I would say. It's not fully conscious because, as you know yourself, with all this feeling and stuff, and because we don't know what we are, and I don't either, I don't know how my mind's working, I don't know what my subconscious is doing. Most of the time I'm not even conscious because the matrix is running amok. It's directing your actions. You go outside and there's a roadblock, you have to take a detour. You didn't plan on taking a detour. Matrix has full dominion, full control, full dominance. Physically, mentally, and psychologically, in every way. That's because that's why I say it's playing out and going down fast. When I say going down fast, that is the matrix wants to go down. The matrix is a dense region. It's all about the physicality. But in order to take the humans down with it and to make sure that you're going and playing still in the matrix, you have to. It has to take over the human mind, which it has done. It's done this at a physical level, if you want to look at it that way. Technology has taken over the human mind at a physical level. No bones about that. None at all. I do not have my own mind. My mind is taken over by the matrix. I still have a little bit of but either way, my mind has been taken over by the matrix. My thoughts are consumed by the matrix. The demigods, the controllers of the demigods, those that control the matrix, who and what they are, look. They're a collective. The demigods project and seduce us in the matrix. so that we play in the matrix. Those that control the demigods, those that the demigods worship or bow down to or work for, if you want to look at it that way. But it's more than working, because my own personal way of looking at it is this is a whole belief system. So it's not like you're just getting paid, and if you weren't getting paid, you'd be sitting here with me and patting me on the back. No, it's not like that. It's like that. It is a belief system. They believe, most of them I would imagine, believe in their God entity. They believe in that world. They believe in that reality. Also, it is their reality, because their physicality is different to ours. They're technical. So the whole way of looking at things, we human beings are fighting for their survival in an artificial technical matrix, but the gods are fighting, the technical gods, the controllers. We're the human gods, but we are, if you want to look at it, it's human gods versus technical gods. But the human gods are not gods in the matrix, because the matrix has taken over the minds and the physical body and everything of the human beings, because the matrix is now going down into its finality. This is the scenario that's been presented to me. It appears to be the case. It feels that way for me, but then again, of course, they want you to feel that way too. Those of you that are better than me, when I say better, I mean that are at a more level where you've got more control over it, where you're less emotional about it, where you still are human and you have the feelings and the emotions, but you are not giving them as much to the matrix, giving them to a force outside the matrix, which is what I think we're meant to. But like I say, we're also cut off. Yeah, we're not receiving, as that song also says. There's no receiving. Everything is consumed by the matrix. I'm not getting any connection. They've cut their cord from the outside, and they're also cut our cord from the outside. I don't want my cord cut from the outside. I don't want my cord connected to the matrix, but it has happened insidiously and slowly over time, I would imagine. I say insidiously, that means behind your back, without your permission, deceptively. But then on the other hand, it has still been happening openly as well. It's just that we're not aware too. So it's like that as well. It's like the demigods. You can listen to that music and you can be seduced. I got angry there. I'm sorry about that. Because I know that I've been seduced myself, and I can still be seduced. I'm watching the song 2 hours ago, and I'm seeing and feeling and almost in the body of that singer. And that's what they want. So there's a revulsion, but also a great attraction. And this is the power of the demigods. Because even when you're aware, like me, you can have a complete revulsion. Now, we certainly never had it in the past, no. But maybe in the past it was more like an awe. Because of their aura, I suppose. Yes, because their aura is enticing. It's different. It's beguiling. Beguiling is a good word. That's a favourite word. Because when you're beguiled, there's a movie called The Beguiled too, by the way. Yes, a horrible movie. It explains it very well in that movie, The Beguiled. When you're beguiled, you're being sucked in and drawn into something that is really negative for you, and that's the matrix, and that is most of what is around you. Most people are even beguilers, because if they are of the matrix, if they are psychopathic, not real people, or as that video I was told to watch, narcissists are not real people. They're not real in the sense that they have no real feelings and emotions for anything except what is going on in their own stuff. I could say that's the same for me, but actually it's still different. Yes, I'm feeling it because No, it is different for me. Because even when I'm watching that video, to see the face of an animal, even though I know it's not real now. But I think these animals were real once. There are real spiritual animals. But, they are not, the real spiritual animals, or real animals, in other words, natural breeding animals that breed with their own kind and create another life force animal, the same as humans did. The only way that humans can reproduce a benefit to themselves. If you mix breed, I've gone off onto breeding now, and this is a bit much, but the animals that are around now in my own vicinity, they're not natural breeding animals. So they're not natural animals. They're animals of the Matrix. Oh dear, I've got a terrible headache, I have to admit. Just hold on for a minute while I get a drink. Oh dear, just as well I left one here, otherwise I'd be really stuffed. It's almost as though that's your last drink. There have been times, well, not times, but most of the time when I'm actually out in the Matrix. When I say out in the Matrix as opposed to being inside my own house, I don't know how I can say my own house when it's not my own at all. It is not my home. It is not a house. It's a prison, and it is not mine. It's controlled by the Matrix, but either way, I was just going to say that sometimes, this shows you the power of the human being, and I say this clearly and emphasise it, and I know I don't have to those that are listening, but can't help myself anyway because it probably sustains me a wee bit. This is what I discovered, and only through observation and my own reality. What happens? It's happened probably all your life, but you'd only notice it now at the end time when the Matrix is closing in, closing down, and suppressing every little ounce that it can, so that it plays its game and takes everyone down into this dense Matrix world. They're the reality they want, the world they want. I don't know if I've explained that, but just the reality that, like myself, for instance, this is stupid, I know. You're probably going to say she's probably even worse than what we thought with her stuff. And look, it's not, because there's much more to it that I don't understand, that you probably do anyway. But just at a little level, this was my own realisation. The reality that for a human being, even to take a drink, this is the power of the human being. If the human being only knew, or we were able to live in a world to where we could operate it, that's another thing. I mean, it's distressing to know power, but to not have access to it. And, like if I take a drink and I enjoy that drink, even if it's an intoxicating beverage, this is it's got to such a fine point that I'm not sure if I can explain this, because I'm only just trying to get it myself. If I take a drink, right, I'm making myself look real here, taking a drink. If a demigod takes a drink, it's not for real. But they can enjoy it through you or me. Like in the movie The Possessed, where the possessed children those spirits that possess the children, they could only enjoy life or enjoy the physicality, in other words, the drink or anything, by entering the bodies of the human beings. And this is the same with the Matrix. The Matrix consumes human beings, just as I consumed the drink. But while I'm consuming the drink, they consume it too. I should just be consuming my own drink, giving myself my own enjoyment, my own nourishment. But no, I'm not. I'm feeding the Matrix at the same time. But the danger, and this is why some of us have been totally almost annihilated in this reality, and this is just my own personal experience, and this is why I think it's so. If I take a drink, but I'm outside in amongst other people, even though they are of the Matrix, most of them. Some of them are semi-human, okay? I'll put it that way. But either way, they want to get that life and that energy from you. It's their nourishment, just as we also, I suppose, get our own. Like, that's right, if I take the drink, it makes me feel satisfied, or the flavour's nice. I enjoy the flavour. Now, this is an important point because I've experienced this. Sometimes when I go to take a drink, the Matrix will be full force all around you. It will be distracting you from enjoying the drink. That shows you that the human being has even more power. Because normally, and I could be totally wrong here, by the way, too, so it is just me going out on my usual fantasy. But, and I think this is because of the desperation of the times, because the Matrix is, like I've said before, hanging by a thread in many ways. It's actually all closed down, but there's still, this shows you the power of the human being. And maybe it has to be complete, maybe it has to be complete too, I don't know. Maybe it has to be. I could be wrong about this, I'm only guessing, could be wrong. Maybe it has to be in order for total checkmate. Of course, it is checkmate in some areas, as I've said before, but maybe for a total Matrix checkmate, it has to be where every single human being, agrees. But that's, because it appears like total defeat to me. It appears like total takeover to me. It feels like it, it looks like it, it seems to be my reality. But, that is still only my perspective. It's still not the whole game. But also, it's because I can't see the full picture and I can't see the full timeline, if you want to look at it that way. I can't see past the moment, but I can see all the past, and I can see that it's all in a moment, only because of, like I said, I can look at the demigod song, and I can see that this all only happened in a few hours. But if I look at the date on the song, that song was probably made 10, 12 years ago. Might even be longer. I'd have to check that. I know the human song is not one that was made, in the last couple of months or, or this year even. But you see, time is a subjective, funny thing because we are in this, I try to figure it out by this, that even the time is such a trick for us because everything is slowed down for us. And yet, funny enough, I always say we need to slow down more because because maybe we can slow down the time, maybe. But are we meant to slow it down? See, that's another thing too. I don't know. Are humans, by their thinking, meant to slow down the time? I'm always trying to think back, saying things were better. Yeah, well, even that song said, yeah, the honest man, the old days and stuff, the mockery. Because things were slowed down more going back a few years, which I was very aware when I first made my first video. I wanted to take things back 20, 30 years, or even just 15 years, because I was that desperate, because I'm like, hey, this is no good. What's happening? Technology, for a start, too consuming, too controlling. It's the final straw, the final nail in the coffin is the overriding technology that we have actually accepted too, because I think there has to be, I've said this for a long time, there has to be a certain amount of human acceptance of things. The Matrix has probably been the way it is for quite a while, and even that I don't fully know. But I'm sort of guessing that a totally natural world is purely a figment of my imagination now. I'm not saying that it didn't exist once, and I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist here. That's all I really know. Hasn't existed here, and maybe hasn't existed in my particular lifetime even right from the beginning, for all I know, because you wouldn't know. Now, what appears to be real and natural may or may not be so, but also I was talking about the animals and stuff, and the actual what we consider life forces. But that's the same as the demigods and the other humans and the other people. They appear to be a pure life source, but they are not. They're not a pure life source. No, that's my conclusion now. They don't take the sip of the drink and get a emotional feeling out of it. They only get it because they're connected to us, because they've connected their technology and their minds to us. Or they're able to possess us. In the past, there was probably more possession. Now we have a total technological mind, almost wire matrix around us. It's like a matrix of electricity almost. I don't understand it, obviously. I'm just using that as, I think the word's a metaphor, an example, or a thing of it. But it's the same thing. You can't see electricity, you can't see technology, you can't see Wi-Fi. It's there. It's transmitting signals, thoughts. Your thoughts are consumed by the matrix through the technology. Just as, I make a video now, right? And I'm aware that this technology is taking my verbal thinking, what I say, which is what I'm thinking, or trying to put what I'm thinking into words. This is doing it the tough way. This is doing it the slow way. This is doing the way that the matrix laughs at the human being. The matrix does it like that. It takes your thought as you're thinking it, consumes it. I've seen it. That's why I get distressed. We would be safer if we weren't human beings at all at this present time. That's my own personal belief. I actually said this not long ago. And I was told this too, when the Matrix first exposed itself. It was on a video. In other words, the less thinking you do, the less emotion you have, which are actually your benefit, but not in a matrix. You see, everything that is a benefit to a human being, that is your creative power, your whole essence, every ability, will not be for you. It will be consumed by the matrix. Maybe that's why some people allow themselves to become vegetables in a matrix, because they're protecting. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't think that is true either. I think there's a better way. Like if you're at some sort of more spiritual level to where you're not sure how you do it. I think some people maybe can do it, but to where you are not giving too much to the matrix, but you're still sustaining yourself and your humanity. How you do that, if you have a recipe for that, please let me know, because I desperately need it. But I would think that's what you're supposed to do. But see, my problem is that I've been trying to figure it out as I go along. I've been trying to figure it out as I've been going along. And I think it's getting dark here. I better just hold on. Oh! Oh dear. Just put some light on. Let there be light. And somebody saw that the light was good. I'm sure there's something to all of that too. But the matrix, you see, has its own version of everything. Now I've gone off onto the light because I put the light on. We're supposed to be back on the other stuff. But but that is an interesting point too. Like that original and best thing that I was trying to fathom out while I wrote it down the other day. And that let there be light. What is light in a matrix? See, the matrix is very much like this, right? And I'm sure most of you probably know this, but hey, it's there for, to to substantiate what you already think, or to that's right. Even if you know something yourself, it's nice to know that someone else, or there's a few others still left in the matrix. I think that's the whole idea now, or the whole purpose of the videos and of it's just like, that seems to be, which is the complete opposite, like in some ways, to the stuff. But either way, the light, and I've got to get back here onto something that I don't know what I'm talking about as usual. See, the matrix has its own version of everything. Like, as you can see from what I've been trying to explain, but not putting it correctly, or not putting it very well, the matrix consumes everything that is human, gives it to its disciples, its players, its friends, its relatives, its children, those that are of the matrix, that worship the matrix God. That is, they want their own reality. We are living in their reality, not ours. Even though we, a lot of the humanity comes from us. The creative humanity. Humanity is really just a creative person, a thinking person. But it thinks different to the matrix. It thinks different to the technological matrix, or the technological children, beings, relatives of the matrix. Their thinking is more intellectual. I don't know what I'm talking about here, because I've not met these beings, but they're It's funny because in a funny kind of way they try to put the the two different versions of the human beings, like you have the masculine force and a feminine force. You know, they try to roll it into one being. That's what makes the demigods so seductive, you know, because they're combining. You know, in other words, I've gone off the track here again. I know onto the demigods again instead of into the duality of the matrix or the duplication of the matrix. This is a duplicate world, a duplicate earth, a duplicate of a world that humans should have, but don't have anymore, maybe never had, or lost so long ago and didn't make it flourish or whatever, depending on what your belief about the true reality is and what is the whole scenario, shall we say, the whole the big picture, the whole, you know, they talk about you can't see the forest for the trees. Well, that's true. You know, it's good to focus on the trees. You can learn a lot from the trees, but you must be aware there's still a forest too. You know, you've got to, and most people are so busy, that's right, focusing on the trees, as we all are. We focus on the demigods, we focus on the world, we focus on the problems of the world, we focus on the earth. We never stop and think, or even aware. You do stop and think about it when you become when it becomes plain to you that it is not a real world. But even then, it's still hard not to focus on the physical reality. It's like, am I still meant to focus on certain elements of the physical reality? Am I meant to take what is not real to be real? And how do you not take what is real to not be real? How do I not take you know, the dog to be not a real dog or the cat to not be a real cat? Well, I know that it's possession or takeover technologically. Human beings are taken over too. It's just that we don't realise it. Well, neither do the animals too, probably. Or, well, some human beings probably are aware of it. Some human beings are like the children in The Innocents, where they're semi-consciously allowed, and there again, I don't know this for true, you know, I'm only going on the film, but at the same time, you know, I think that there are beings in the world that, you know, that are what you would think of people or human beings, but they're still different to maybe myself or someone else. It's very hard to explain, but they're a different biology, you could say. As we all know, all human beings are not really exactly the same composition anyway. You know, you might have a different you have different genetics, you might have a different blood group, you might come from a different race, you might come from a different, you know, all these different things that we, you know, that I don't fully understand, you know, but we know that, you know, even physically, not all humans look the same, you know, and these differences we think are only superficial. And sometimes they are, but sometimes they may not be. I'm not 100% sure, of course, I don't know, but I'm guessing that, you know, is a reptile the same as a fish or a bird? And some birds are reptiles, some aren't. You know, all the different animal species. You know what I mean? How some are, I think it was like some are cold-blooded and some are warm-blooded, that sort of thing. I don't know what I'm talking about here because I actually at these times am sorry and regretful that I don't have more scientific knowledge, or that my knowledge on even basic things is so limited and so negligible. But I'm still saying these things and throwing them out there. And if I've got it wrong, don't take it seriously, because I'd say that I am ignorant on this. But look at it's just trying to show the idea that not everyone and everything is really probably the same. That's all. That even in the animal kingdom, there are not only different types of animals and species, but they are of a totally different composition. Their genetic makeup, if you want to look at it that way. And I don't know what I'm talking about when I say genetic makeup. No, I don't. But I'm still going there anyway. It's for you to fathom it out and to have more knowledge and to say, well, yeah, there is some merit in that. And you might be able to put it down to specifics where you say, yes, of course, certain species are totally different. They could theoretically come from another space and time almost. But we have it here on this particular earth, or in this particular matrix, depending on how you look at it, all different types of animals, people, life forces. The only difference between myself in now making these videos and saying all this is that I'm saying some is really non-life and some is life. In the sense that if you separate certain things, so I'm just trying to come down to specifics, or trying to put, it's not meant to be a criticism or a compliment, one way or the other. Obviously, I have my own ideas and my own beliefs on that. Just as the negative matrix God, that is not negative for them. What they do, sucking the life from a human being, that's almost like a predator. It's a parasite. But they'd say, how is it any different to you having a drink? You're a parasite on the water. You need the water to survive, or you need the soft drink to survive. And you get a buzz out of it. What wrong is it in us to also partake of your enjoyment or your liquid or whatever? How are we wrong? We've been here as long as you. You've allowed the takeover. Well, I say I haven't, but they're like, hey, it's happened. You're in the position you're in. We have the right of supremacy because we have been able to do it. Doesn't matter if you think you're a higher life form. Doesn't matter if you think that a human being is a true God, and that you think that the demigods are false gods. Doesn't matter. That's just your opinion. It is our world. It is our house. That's right, like in the others. It is our home, not yours. Get out. Move over. Furnish it for us if you like. And if you don't, we'll make it hard for you, so you better. But, it's like that. And the drink was quite nice. But I think I need a coffee, actually. Yeah. But, I was going to make the video today on the animals, nature and stuff in the Matrix. talk about the cats and the dogs, their possession, their takeover, etc. That's how I look at it. The human mind can be taken over by the technology, and it has been. My mind has been taken over by the technology. This is normal, I am told, for the collective matrix operators, beings, disciples, children, relatives, players, whatever you want to call them. They're all different types, I would imagine. May even be different beings, different species, if you like to, but I don't normally go into that. I used to, but that was before I come to the point that I'm at now, even in this reality where I keep it a lot more simple. And I still don't fully understand it, but I do think that most of the human power has now been taken over by the Matrix. Someone that listens left a comment a while back saying that human beings are the life boys, or what I would say life boys, but same thing, of the Matrix. They're used by the Matrix as a form of life, sustenance for the Matrix. Like I say, it keeps the Matrix going to use the human thinking and the human ideas and the human thoughts to keep seducing and beguiling, that word, the few humans that are left. The few humans of my kind, I'm guessing. I don't even know what I'm talking about when I say my kind, because I just thought I was a human being in a world of human beings. But I now realise that is definitely not true. But even at a very superficial, basic level, the demigods are different to me. I recognise that now. I always knew they were different. I just thought they were more special. I just thought they were more attractive, more beautiful, more talented, more thinking, more intellectual, more profound, more knowledgeable in every area, depending on what their area, more creative. If they, like I said before, if they're a singer and writing the songs and singing the songs, they've got more abilities, they've got more talent, they've got more emotion than me, because every little bit of thinking that I do is projected much more beautifully by them, much more profoundly by them, much more succinctly by them, much more in a more creative, enticing manner, which is the purpose of music. Music is of the Matrix. Music is of the Matrix God. There's no human music. It comes, a lot of it, from a real human being, but like I say, it's consumed by the Matrix, and then we consume it back, if you like, and worship it. It's kind of a cycle. It's a funny kind of cycle. It's like we're consuming ourselves. We're lapping up to ourselves. We're sucking up to ourselves, but we don't know it. I suppose it's a bit like the psychopathic narcissistic personality that seduces you by, that's right, like in that video that was left to me by a watcher. Would like to be more familiar, but not sure that that would be wanted, so I won't. So I'll just keep it simple and more professional, shall we say, or more impersonal. Where was I? That's a good question. Oh dear, I shouldn't have went off onto the, Yeah, it's like a cycle. It's like a circle. We're eating our own fruit, our own information, our own feelings. We're consuming it after the matrix has consumed it from us, or drawn it out from us, or enticed it from us, or stolen it from us. But oh wait, I'm back on track now. Yeah, back to the video that was left for me to watch. It's the same thing when you are enticed, beguiled, or seduced by a narcissistic, not real person, in the sense that that person will use everything that you like, as the video said. Will automatically draw out from you your feelings and your emotions and what you like, what you don't like, all the best from you. They'll draw out that from you and get it out of you early on, even in the association or the relationship, depending on how deep it goes. And then you will automatically relate to them. You're really relating for yourself. They've stolen it from you. They've drawn it out from you. They've captured it from you. The Matrix does that. It captures your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your thinking, your ideas, your beliefs, anything that is attractive about you, or anything that is good about you, or anything that is a benefit about you for them to use. And then that's the same as this video said about the narcissistic personality type. They do that. And so then you're falling in, it's like supposing you fell in love with a narcissistic person. You're falling in love with yourself and you don't know it. And it should be that you should be loving yourself, or at least content with yourself. Instead, you're dissatisfied with yourself. Because sometimes you might be telling that person all the heartaches, all the problems that you have in your life. They will relate to it and they will appear to be the solution. They will appear to be like the God entity in the Matrix and the demigods. They will appear to have it more together. They will appear to empathise with you, sympathise with you, understand you. But they will appear to have it more together. They don't have it together at all. They have it together in a way, but they don't. No, they don't really. They don't really have anything at all in a way. They're a mastermind manipulator of a human being in order to consume your energy, your thinking, to benefit them, so they come alive. Because they're not really real people, as the video said. In a way, they've kind of died, let themselves die in a way. Matrix tries to make us all dead, because the Matrix steals all my stuff, all my energy, all my thoughts and things, and all yours, while it's thriving. The same as the narcissist consumes all your energy, all your thinking, uses it to where then you give your energy to them. You give your love to them. You give your feelings to them. You even idolise them. You may fall in love with them. You may marry them. You may, but it's not real. But you think it's real because it appears to be. This whole reality is an unreal thing. It's only when you can see a bit of the so-called real reality to it, or what's going on, or that there is this game being played, that this is being put in motion, that then you come down to earth, shall we say, and you realise you're in an earth matrix, not a real earth, which is a pity. Be nice if you could come down from it and come down to a real earth and say, I can see, because that's what happened to me 3 years ago. I'm like, I can see the narcissists now. I can see the psychopaths. I can see that I've known them all my life. I've given all my energy to them and thought that I was a non-person almost. Because you belittle what you are and give all the credit to the Matrix God, the Matrix representatives, The Matrix world players, even the Matrix players in your life, they're players. They're not real people, as the video said. That sounds strange, I know. But they lack. And then you give them what they lack, and their intellect uses it. You know, they as I said before, they center totally on you. They concentrate totally on you. The Matrix concentrates on individuals, humans too. Takes their thinking, listens to their thinking and their ideas, and then takes it and makes a beautiful song or a lovely movie. And then you're like, wow, this Matrix is fantastic. Gee, the demigods they are magnificent. They are wonderful. They are everything I should be. How can I be like them? I better worship them. I better fall down at their feet. I better relate to them. You're relating to yourself. So now, even when I watch the video, I'm in a double mind too, which is also not good. Whereas you should separate totally from the Matrix, separate totally from the demigods, I would imagine. Separate totally and just be in yourself. But how can you do that when you're in a Matrix, when they're stealing everything from you? You're almost got no self. You feel as though you've got no self. All the self is of the Matrix. This is a very dangerous game that's being played here. A very dangerous game. It's a very it's a human destroying game at an individual level. I feel it myself. You know, to be in that double mind, even now, to be kind of it's brought to your attention, so you can't help but be awake about it. But you want to walk away from it. Yeah, you want to say like Neo, get me out of here. Because you know they're consuming you. You know and you can't stop it. You can't walk away and say, I'll go and hide in a cave. And even if you were that desperate or willing to do that, you can't go and hide in a cave. They'll still know what you're thinking. They'll still steal your thoughts. And you're still open to possession. Now, look, I'm not 100% sure about this, so maybe I should close the video because I've gone beyond my own limits here. I'm going into fairyland, but I could be overstepping my own understanding of things here because I just realised that as I was saying it. And some of you might disagree with this too. In the sense that you might say, well, you can separate yourself from the Matrix. I'd like to know how. You know, when the technology is capable of consuming your thinking, you deal with that. You say it doesn't matter probably. Let them have your thoughts. Let them have their game. Let them play. Let them dance. Let them be the dancers. Are you human or are you dancer or dancers? Let them dance. Let them be dense. Let them have a ball. Let them party. They had a sign up down the end of my street called Street Party. There's a street party. I said to someone, I said, what's a street party? Oh, that's where everyone... But I haven't seen the street party. There doesn't seem to have been a party, but of course they're partying all the time, you see. That's a secret joke. You know, their idea of a party isn't the same as mine. You know, you don't have to have people out there partying, having a drink and maybe dancing or something. Their idea of dancing and partying is different to yours and mine, I would imagine. That's something that we don't realise, that I'm only just getting a bit now. You know, you have a different mind, a different idea of fun. It's like children sometimes have a different idea of fun. They can do all sorts of naughty things sometimes for fun. Now, these beings are very separate. A lot of humans are very separate. Psychopaths are very separate. Narcissists are very separate. They might have more friends than me. They might socialise more. They need that because they need the energy, that's all. But they don't actually combine with others at a real proper mental level. Now I don't know what I'm talking about, because the matrix itself is a collaborative, combined effort. It is a mind. See, this is beyond my comprehension. This is the problem. I'll talk about this. I believe it to be so. And I see it to be so. But, how it's fully in operation is another thing. But essentially, I would say this. It just come to me just this second. What we have here in this reality now is a duplicate reality. It is beings and gods, demigods, false gods for humans. Okay? False gods for humans, if you want to look at it that way, for real people. Okay? That are masquerading around and have full dominion over this world, which is really a matrix anyway. They have full dominion, full possession of most people's minds and emotions, which is a very big thing. You control the human heart to some extent. That's a metaphor. It's not meant to be necessarily real. It could be, for all I know, because I don't know what I'm talking about and I don't understand the whole scenario. I don't understand the whole deal. I don't understand the whole world. I don't understand the full matrix. And I certainly don't understand anything outside of the matrix. The workings of the matrix. How they're doing all these things. Exactly who? Oh, of course, I have ventured ideas, and we see the demigods operating in our matrix. I will say this, that when I was watching that human video, are we human or are we dancers? Pay my respects to grace and virtue, give my condolences to good. Give my regards to soul and romance. They always did the best they could. So long to devotion. Yeah, humans have been devoted to the matrix. So long to devotion. You taught me everything I know. Humans have taught the matrix everything they know in order to take them over, seduce them and control them. Which is mind-baffling, isn't it? Yes, it does make you... When you realise that, yes, it is a little bit hard to take. This is why I made the video. Yeah. It is like betrayal, I would imagine. This is how you feel sometimes after you have known some narcissists, psychopathic people. They betray you, you feel betrayed. This is common. This is the word some people would even use. Because you've been tricked. You know that a lot has been taken from you. If you give your all to another human being or to the matrix or to its ideas, to the demigods, to anything that is false, that turns out to be not true and not a benefit to you, you either feel betrayed, but at the same time you also feel stupid and foolish, as we all do. But, and you blame yourself because you say, how could I have been so silly? But of course, you didn't know that, because if you don't know you're dealing with certain beings or personality types, not real people, as the video said, if you don't realise these things, and because you're in a matrix and you're so wanting yourself, like the two children in the innocent, so needy, so desperate, as we've all been needy and desperate at times. Even the strongest people can become needy and desperate. I don't consider myself to have been the most needy and most desperate person, but you can be pushed to that point. Now realising how important the human emotion is, and how important the human feeling and stuff is in the reality, just in this world. Like I say, the human thought, feeling, emotion creates the reality. This is the human power. It's the power of all, in a way. It's the only life source. It's very difficult. It's like, how are we in this position? How could the most powerful be pushed to the bottom of the heap? How could we be buried in sand, literally buried in the dirt, and everyone trampling over us? It's kind of like that. It's very strange. It's difficult to deal with. But, there's probably reasons for it. And some of you will probably know those reasons, and therefore you get more on top of it. I know some of the reasons, or I have my ideas. Still really grappling to get on top of it, if that's the right word. I hope I'm using the right words here. But see, different things will bring you down too, like the physical brings me down, as I've said before, quite a bit. Because I feel that I need the physical in order to get on top mentally. So the physical and the surroundings in the environment have been brought down intensely for that reason. Each individual will be controlled and brought down or kept at a certain level in different ways in the Matrix, because it is the end of things, because the game is now at being played at full ferocity, in a way, if you want to look at it that way, because it is make or break for the demigods, for the demigod controllers, for those that rule and have full dominion over the Matrix. The species, the beings that control the Matrix, possibly even control the demigods. That's another thing too. The demigods may or may not be the same species as the species, the relatives, the family of the God entity. Look, I don't, so I don't fully understand all this. I have the sort of vague ideas of it. Because don't forget, these beings like to take human form, like to take over, possess human beings, etc. But they're still, they still could be different. But all I'm trying to say is that regardless of that, the beings, the species, the types of people, if they take a human form, that control the demigods, even, or that the demigods worship or allow possession. They could allow possession to, I suppose there's that possibility. This has been spoken of. You see this in some videos and different things which I've become aware of over the last 2 years. Because they worship these beings, they worship the God entity, etc. So they're combining with this. It'd be like human beings combining with their creator. It would seem perfectly natural to want to be in contact and to want to assimilate that being into you. They have taken it to quite an extreme over years and years. This is the duality that we have now in people, in the demigods, that humans also, even real humans that are not of that kind, still worship. It's very, like I say, it's very beguiling, enticing, to be drawn into that person, to be seduced by that person, to believe that person, that being, to be a superior version of yourself, if you want to look at it that way sometimes even. That seems to happen. I don't think this is how humans were meant to be now. I think this myself now, only now. This. I know we talk a lot about equality and stuff, but really, there's no equality to this at all. It is idol worship. It is acknowledging or supposing, because it's actually not true, that the demigod or the other person is better than you, or has more thing qualities that you don't have. This is not true at all. It's the other way around. It's a duplicate reality that has been taken over by this matrix mastermind collective that's a technological being, if you like, it's a technological composition, a technological collective. I don't understand it, so I'm just using the words. I don't know how it exactly works. I don't know all the different species, all the different beings, all the different ways they do this. I don't. I piece it together. But I see the reality of it because it happens to me in my own life. So, I see the takeover, even the possession of the animals, like I say, and of people. And you're continually fighting that yourself in a way, I think. I'm not sure, I think that some people are like an open door to possession. Their very bodies and their composition are a hospitable, I would think, a comfortable environment for possession. Some human beings are an uncomfortable environment for possession, I would imagine. Maybe I'm not a comfortable environment for possession, but that doesn't stop them trying. In fact, they have to try just a lot harder. They have to make you then an hospitable environment for their possession. That entails bringing you down to your lowest human level. That entails taking all your humanity from you. That entails making you low vibration, low spirit, low frequency. That entails making your emotions, feelings, and thoughts negative. And, feeling defeated, depleted, and angry, and sad, and fearful, and everything that is negative that a human doesn't want to feel and shouldn't feel in a normal, natural environment, which they're not in. This is the way that, the negative emotions are much more enjoyable to these to these vampires, because these beings are literally human vampires. The demigods are vampires too. They're total vampires. You can see it when you watch them. I watched it a few hours ago. I watched The Singer, beguiling and seducing me, but at the same time a vampire for my adoration, for my admiration, for my worship, for my relating, for my loving, for my Because even at this stage there is the repulsion, the wanting to walk away. But at the same time, they're still being drawn there to watch the video again and trying to figure it out. trying to say, I'm really attracted to this being, but I know I shouldn't be. So it is resisting temptation greatly, almost, you could say. Same when you're watching a movie. Look at how many times I've looked at The Innocents. And, it opened my eyes to the possession, but at the same time to the idea, but I'm still buying into those actors too as well, because they're showing me the truth. So therefore they must be real, they must be genuine. They can't be the demigods of the Matrix. They can't be the possessed beings showing me about possession, can they? Yes, they can. And that's what they do. This is their game. This is their their great power, their great ability to take you over. This is their gift. But, it's not really, but, it appears impressive. But it's really not. It's because they have been doing it for so long. They have studied us, as I said before, studied human beings. They need human beings. Human beings don't really need the demigods. Human beings, we don't really need them. We think we do. We don't need any of these negative forces, negative species. We don't really need the Matrix. But we've been conditioned to need it. It's all there is. Our world has been taken from us. It has been destroyed. Our natural reality does not exist. It's been gradually eliminated over time. Or for all I know, it could have been done very quickly because, like I say, everything is happening fast. Because of our ignorance, we don't know what time is. We don't know how they're doing all these things. You see the results of some of them, but we don't know... how could I be thinking stuff now, this very second, and yet it's already been put into the Matrix? How is that possible? Well, see, that's because we don't understand what's going on. I know that's what happens because I see it. I saw it in the video. I wasn't looking for it. It only happened a few hours ago. I already was aware of this. But I just didn't, I don't always comprehend it. I always think, oh, well, yeah, it steals something. But I don't realise everything's already been stolen. I don't realise some things have already gone down. That's why I say it's, in some ways, it's checkmate in many ways. So that's the only reason I said that, because I might not even always see that. I actually do kind of see it in my own reality. I can't escape that. I'd have to be a fool not to, in a way. I'd have to be so optimistic, but that is actually a good thing. The Matrix doesn't like optimism at all. Doesn't like, yes, like that song, Mr. Brightside, doesn't want you to see the bright side of a negative deal. That is something the Matrix doesn't understand and doesn't like and seeks to destroy too, because otherwise the energy, the vampires that feed off human beings, feed off them physically, mentally and psychologically for every ounce of energy and to create the reality that they need for their sustenance, shall we say. It's also something they enjoy doing too, because they're a different type of species. It's a little bit like saying, like that video that I was told to watch where it said, narcissists are not real people. Well, these beings are not real people either, in the sense that they don't. They're not real individual people. No, they need to copy. I don't know how to put that. This world is, a bit like I said, that original is not always the best. Everything appears to be original in the Matrix. So I'm just getting back onto that now, but not fully sure I've got the whole thing in my mind properly. But the original is not always the best in the Matrix. The original is never the original in the Matrix. Everything in this world is a duplicate, a copy, or an idea, or a reverse reality of what is another reality, a human reality, I think. But see, the Matrix God entity and those that are of that collective, a bit like saying, okay, so you're a human being, so there are other human beings. So it's the same thing, except that they're different to human beings. Human beings don't feed off them, they feed off human beings, okay? We're there for their amusement, for their entertainment, for their nourishment, for their sustenance, for their to create their reality for them, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah, so we're creating the reality for them. They want their own reality. They have their own reality. They like the ideas of the human being, and they want to have. They want their God entity to be the God of the Matrix, which it is. But they want. They have all the ones of the Matrix, the top gods of the Matrix, the top beings of the Matrix, the top humans even of the Matrix, if you like. They look like humans, but they're different to like myself. But I don't know how to explain how they're different. I've done my best to just say that they're just a different, they have a different makeup, different genetic kind of makeup. They're technological in origin by comparison, and what they do have in common is, it's kind of like this. I would say that, and I'm sure you probably know this, but they might be different, the demigods and those that control and other visible demigods of the Matrix. Like I said, there's the visible and the invisible demigods. Some of them might be more visible than others, some of them might be, but there are some that probably have more, a bit like you could have various degrees of money. If you're the richest man in the world at a physical level, you have the most power. So it's kind of like that, you could probably put it down to who's got the most physical control, who's got the most physical money, who's got the most physical means in the Matrix to control, whoever and whatever they're controlling. But it's all a worship thing. It's all an agreed collaborative allegiance to the God entity, if you want to look at it that way. They all have the same ideas. They all have the same beliefs. The same as how you, or maybe myself, might have certain ideas, certain beliefs, about what they think a reality should be, or who they should admire and worship, and all this sort of stuff. It's like that. So they have the same, the one thing they have, that's what they have in common, despite some of them might appearing to have physical differences, they all agree on certain basic ideas and beliefs. They are all of the same denomination, if you like. They're a collective that believe in the matrix world, want the matrix world to be a reality, want it to be their reality, their version of an ideal world, or a heaven, if you want to use it that way. Like the little girl said in the house, or the housekeeper said, or the governor said, this place is a heaven for children. And that's what I suppose, that's all humans have always wanted too. They want a little idealised heaven little world, don't they? We've all thought like that. Or wouldn't we like to make our little corner of the sky, our little version of what most of us don't even come remotely close. And some of us have ended up in the reverse, unfortunately. Everything that we like seems to be turned around. But that is because we're under the control of the matrix. So, we're not meant to, if you're not of the matrix, like directly and consciously serving the matrix. See, I unconsciously serve the matrix because I can't stop it. But consciously, I don't agree with everything of the matrix. And if you are to be successful and comfortable in the matrix, you must agree with all of the matrix. You must agree with all of their ideas, all their philosophies, all their fantasies, if you like. Like I have what I would say fantasies or ideas, but you have to agree with what they think is the version of a correct world. You certainly have to go along with their superstitions, with their practices, shall we say, I would guess. That could be quite simple things, like some of us humans might just not agree with some practices. We might agree with others, but I'm not being specific here, obviously, but that I think is the dividing line sometimes. I know it's probably been for me, because I often wonder how I've got myself into this diabolical position, what I call a diabolical position, because I often think, I'm reasonably easygoing, live and let live. Well, the fella said that in the song Live and Let Live too. But actually they don't believe in live and let live. That just makes them sound human. They like to sound free and easy, but they're not. That is a human trait, to say, well, look, I have got a different thing to you, but I'm not actually going to destroy you. But the matrix is not like that. The matrix is an all or nothing thing. Just as if you've known psychopathic, narcissistic people, they do tend to be very all or nothing. It's their way or the highway. It is all or nothing. They're not interested in you having a piece of the pie. They say that to you. In fact, I've known actual psychopaths that have actually said to me, oh, it's better if you just settle for a piece of the pie. What they mean is you settle for a piece of the pie and we'll have the whole pie. That's what they really mean. And that has been my experience. And some people settle for that piece. Some people settle for a bite. I've seen it in reality. And I've done that myself too. I guess it just depends on how far you're prepared to be pushed. And also sometimes it becomes a necessity. I've seen some unfortunate people where it does become a necessity, because we are in a physical world. So some people are only prepared to go so far even at a physical level. And that is certainly true of myself. I've said that before. I've said under sufferance, you would probably, a bit like they say, under certain conditions, you'll say or do whatever it is to survive. And that the matrix plays on that incredibly. That's why and the physical gets brought down to where you can deal less with the physical too. That's another thing too. That's what I personally find. In other words, a bit like my simple example, which I use simply, to where I personally am now very sensitive to sound. That does not have to be a bad thing if you are in an ideal physical locality. If you're out listening in the country out to the birds chirping and the little stream flowing past you, a babbling brook, like you see the sounds on the pleasant sounds that you're supposed to listen to that are actually conducive to you feeling content, that is a good thing. But if you're in a city where you go outside and every sound is magnified, so therefore, it's largely technological, everything that's in a city. So you're getting negative sounds into your, amplified negative sounds into your head all the time. So this is not a positive thing. And that's the example I use. But, if you're at a higher level, you probably will not have allowed yourself to be so sensitized to the sound or conditioned to the sound, or you are able to override that or see that sound as not so negative. I'm not 100% sure whether things have got louder and more of it over the last year, for instance, as opposed to me just noticing it more. No. I will have to correct myself there. I know for a fact that the sound has been increased, that there is more of it, because at a realistic, practical level, I see much more traffic on the road and stuff like that. So that is a reality. So I'm not exaggerating or saying, well, look, I've just at a low spiritual level, so therefore I can't cope with what I used to be able to cope with. There's all this combination that does come into play, of course, but the reality has changed. There is more traffic on the road. It is of a bigger variety. It's a bit like the planes going over. That was no fantasy when I said, some things I say are fantasy or open to speculation or your consideration or debate, shall we say. But other things are just real. But on the other hand, I do have neighbours around me that say the planes don't bother them. They're not bothered by a jet going a few feet almost over their house. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they do go right over. They have been going right over. They're not going over quite as much now because we have a closed down world where even the planes. That is because I'm getting upset here and excited and overreacting, as you can see. And I'm sorry about that, and it's not appropriate for a video, and it shows that the Matrix has me. But I better fold up too because it is now dark and it was light, which means that I should have turned that hourglass round. If I make a phone call or make a video, I say to myself, when I made this video, I said I'm going to make an hour video. As you can see, it is not possible for me to talk for that, to get my point or to even have a conversation in that time, which shows that I cannot even control myself, much less have any dominion over the Matrix or its mind or its controllers or whatever. But, sorry about that. Oh dear. But the point is, if there is a point, really sorry about these videos. If I could just take them at a slower pace and calm down and get them coordinated and... I think that's the word, coordinated, or that's probably not the word, but get them in just in a coherent manner. Yes, a video talking in a coherent manner that flows a bit. That would be nice. They've got actually less that way, as you can see, but maybe it's okay if it's just a chat between a few people. It doesn't matter so much. Thank goodness for that. But it shows you that things are not good, though, that is the case too, because, it's almost like game over, gate closed, closing the stable door after the horse has already bolted, as they say, so it matters not. The horse has escaped, but I'll still close the stable door slowly. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but yeah, the idea that I've lost track. I'm so sorry about that. I really am. And saying sorry also is another thing of the Matrix too, because it's like, look what we are reduced to. We have to apologise even while we make a video. The Matrix isn't going to apologise to me or to us for making me look a bumbling fool, no. It's like you're supposed to be, you've let this happen. You're supposed to be above it. We take from you and you're the bumbling fool. That's humanity. That's the Matrix. So, it's... But still, I don't want to go too much into that and be sounding too negative. But yeah, the planes going over, I'll just finish up on that. The planes going over, which were going over me and others around, but specifically almost over my place, you could say, because just out here right over, in vast numbers, are now not as in vast numbers, because the Matrix has done an about turn. It's changed its tune. It said, hey, yes, we've accomplished that with the planes. We've kept that vibration low. We've kept the sound going in conjunction with other sound, in conjunction with the Matrix. The Matrix is a complete technological collaborative effort, not only by the beings that operate it, control it, dominate it, have full dominion over it, or using words here, but also at a technological basic level, whether it be at a frequency, noise, or sound, sight level for human beings. It's all technology, it's all a distraction, it's all confusion, it's all disruption to a human frequency that a human being needs to be at and wants to be at. A high, pleasant, comfortable, content human frequency in yourself and in your environment. I don't know if I put that right. I'm lost for words and I'm a bit overstressed and overheated. Despite it being cold, I'm sweating right through from tension, because I do try to make a reasonable video, but I know that I'm not, so I get a bit... But that's the Matrix too. I have to get to the point where I say, hey, look, I'm not a demigod. Cannot compete with demigods. The demigods have already taken over. The demigods rule. The gods rule the demigods. They are all of the same mind. They all agree on certain basic principles of the world they want and what they think is the true God. They have their own gods. They want their own reality. It is not the same as a human being. A human being is merely something that is to be utilised in their reality. Someone like myself sees that as somehow that we've lost everything. Yeah, and that we've been taken completely over. So you see that as a very negative thing. And in many ways, or at least from my own personal way of looking at it, I see it as, yes, I see it as checkmate, only because it's like your world is gone, your reality's gone, there's nothing natural, and even your own mind is gone. It's one thing to take your physical reality from you. It's one thing to take your world from you. It's one thing to take the natural reality from you. It's one thing to see the possession of others and other species even, like the dog and the dear cat. But when you realise that you yourself, just at a private personal mind level, is taken over, that's when it becomes intolerable, I would, that's how I see it. And I have been coping with that for the last couple of years. That was the hardest thing for me. The rest I could vaguely, even like I say, most human beings would be upset if they had an ex-lover or an ex-person that was stalking them or something, and they would find that distressing. They would feel that their world had closed in, that they had lost control, or they had no rights, that they're being made, they're not being respected or as a person or as a human being, but to realise that the whole reality is like that, and to actually have that whole reality crashing around you, and then the mind not your own as well. I mean, how do we cope with not knowing that our mind is taken over, that we're that requires the ultimate, and because we're disconnected. So I would think that some people, if they've still got a connection from something outside the matrix, that they can hold on. That song said hold on too. But of course they're talking about them holding on too. They're mocking and making fun of the human being that can't hold on, while they also are holding on to their ideology, to their ideal world, to their dream. Their dream is not my dream, or maybe not your dream. I don't know, each person. But I would imagine that if you like a real, well, I've discussed this before. I think I need to fold up. I've had it. Yeah. Yes, I'll fold up anyway because I've gone on far too long, and as usual, I say I won't put the video out. I put it out there because there's nothing else to do really, and I don't want to sound negative because I don't know the full thing. I do, obviously, if you're some of us do feel very closed in and very isolated. That's the idea of the reality too. So you do have to go inside. But then you say, I haven't got my own thoughts. The matrix takes everything. So you don't feel as though you've got much inside either. So that's why I say it is the end of things. It is the end of everything is folding in very quick. But either way, I forgot. The plane's going. Oh dear. The plane's going over. I'll finish up here. I was just going to close. The plane's going over like now. You haven't got the planes going over so much. Like normally at this time you'd get a lot of planes going over. They were actually going over between 30 and 60 seconds continuously. Just a couple of months ago. That is because the Matrix is now playing a different game. It's like, and I can't explain this because I'd have to fully understand, but it's like it's more important at this time, and this is a personal message here, by the way. The Matrix plays its game according to the frequency, vibration, and the potential for individual humans. That's why I say, you cannot underestimate the human being. That has been our big mistake. Instead, we overestimate the demigods and the Matrix and the powerful ones of the Matrix God entity and its fake Matrix world. But back on track. The planes that were going over, all the time now have been stopped from going. There is limited travel at the present time. That is because the Matrix, just in the blink of an eye, knew human thought, knew human potential, doesn't want its Matrix being rocked even slightly at this endgame scenario, and so therefore said, oh, we want the planes really going over, but maybe it is more important at this present time to stop the planes going, to stop the travel, to stop the flow of communication at a physical level even. Now, this is a message, and only you that listen will know what I'm saying and will say that is because at this time it is more important to stop physical human travel. When this is no longer a possibility or something happens, then the travel will come back in. But also to make it difficult to, like for instance myself, like I have vertigo, and I've never been on a plane. So if my life depended on me travelling somewhere, I'd be pretty hard pressed to make a move, wouldn't I? In fact, I'm not making a move even at a local transport level. And that also is a problem too, because then you are fearful of getting on a transport because, there is a virus raging everywhere. So all these sort of things, they're all being put into play. And I just throw it out there because that's the case. But either way, it shows, because the numbers are very few with humans at this time. What am I talking about at this time? This is the end of the time, so they're not going to all of a sudden become in vast numbers. We're not going to all of a sudden start having like back in the 50s or the 60s, the baby boomers, where, like I mentioned this in many, many, many videos ago, how humans have always been able to keep their numbers up in a matrix. Well, we don't breed like rabbits anymore. In fact, rabbits are a joke in general in the matrix. So we can't do that. The numbers can never rise. They can only get lower. And we don't have that potential much now anyway. So, so I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm folding up here. But either way, my point being that the Matrix has seen fit to just at a physical level stop the planes. Because that seems to be their imperative at the present time, whereas, a few months ago it was more important to be stopping the flow of the frequency and vibration with the noise. And also there are other elements to the plane probably. This has been pointed out to me by others, but I won't go into that at the moment because I think that there is truth to everything. Look, this is a matrix that is now consuming the human beings very much because, it is time for their party. They're already partying, but, they want only, they want to party only with their own kind and have, they want an open acknowledgement of the matrix in a way. I would imagine, like the matrix has been taken over for quite a while. At least that's what my own personal reality is. But, there's no, the demigods and all those, there's a semi-open acknowledgement of the God entity, semi-open acknowledgement of the powers that be, or the matrix controllers, and the demigods certainly take most of the limelight in their various forms, the players of the matrix on the world stage, as they say, dare I say that even making a video that is going out to the world stage, It just depends on how many people it goes out to, as to your status in the matrix, I suppose. And status is another thing of the matrix too. Oh, my eyes are burning up here. I don't know why. I think I better fold up because yeah. But the matrix lost my thought because the physical got me there for a second. You see, that's what I'm saying. So. Yeah, the matrix. Like I say, like it's all a world stage now because we have the technology and everything can go out. But the visible demigods, it does depend on how many people you get to, and but it is a very finely tuned thing too, I would imagine. I'm just going to speculate this here or put it there. I think it's so though. It's certainly a high probability or possibility anyway. Oh dear. Perhaps if I didn't use so many words I wouldn't get so exhausted too. Try too hard to impress. See, the demigods do it with ease. So eloquently. So enticingly. So seductively. So completely. So subtly too. Not like me emphasising and desperately using words and desperately, like some sort of maniac that's desperate. That's what you look like as a human being. Whereas they're subtly, with all their pure emotion and their genuine feelings and stuff, putting it there and basically taking over the whole world, the whole earth, the whole matrix reality. Doesn't matter whether it's technical or even real if you think that. It's not real, of course, at all. It's not real even at a mind level. So, because even if it was a natural world and you believe it still to be different at a mental level, like you have wrong ideas, you've been conditioned to accept things that are negative. You've been conditioned to accept superstition as opposed to fact or reality or truth, shall we say. And truth, of course, is the main weapon of the matrix anyway as well, because otherwise, as I said a million times, and I realised this earlier on, and many agree with this, truth is the most seductive force of all. It's very hard to trick human beings. We're not total fools. Human beings are tricked a lot more by the mingling of truth, twisted round a little bit, or, to where it really becomes a lie. Or at least to where your mind is altered, to where you're not at your best. I can't even explain that. I'd have to go into specific examples, and there are a million of them, but, but that's really how it is. And that sounds fancy, but at the same time, it is really so. Even human beings' good points have been manipulated and controlled by the matrix in recent years. You see it all the time. People that even like the natural things and that are trying to defend or help the natural things. I've seen it. I was seduced by this myself a couple of years ago, and I'm going to have to fold up here. With a Matrix documentary. I won't go into it. I might have mentioned it in early videos. I'm not sure. I know that it really tugged at my so-called heartstrings and yet, the Matrix demigods took all the credit. And yet the Matrix demigods are really celebrating the destruction of nature in some ways, because they don't hold life force as very important. They think it is okay to sacrifice real life for the benefit of all or for the benefit of the matrix. That is their belief system almost, you could say. So it's a different way of looking at things. One could say maybe I shouldn't be pointing out what I think is correct. I'm only saying that, hey, I don't particularly, that is probably not how I would think, which is why I'm not so much at the Matrix. It is a reality, and it's practical for them too. It's actually real for them. But they know that most humans, especially in more recent years, because it's kind of strange that humans in some ways have become, in recent times, more, I'm not sure why this is. This is probably coming from certain human sources, individuals, I might add, because of the numbers being low, that actually have woke up to things in the Matrix that they weren't aware of how much natural destruction there was. But like I say, that'll still be utilised by the Matrix, and the real humans then will play more for the Matrix, thinking they're playing for nature. So what I'm trying to say is that at some level, humans almost appear to be, I would dare I say, more human at this point. But it's really a fallacy because they're actually still playing much more than ever for the Matrix. That's the confusion and the trickery and the treachery, if you like, of the Matrix. Only if you're a human, of course. Because, like I say, it's normal for certain predators and parasites to feed off others. They don't think that is predatory or parasitic even. They don't think it's negative. They think it's a necessary thing. Even from my point of view, I'd say it's a necessary evil. Yes, sure, if you need something from something else and you have to, the lion has to eat the deer to survive, apparently, that would seem like a necessary evil. I might like the lion. I don't dislike the lion any more than the deer. They are all animals to me. But one is a predator and one isn't. And that's exactly how the Matrix sees things, probably. That's their way of getting around it, I would imagine. Not that they probably have a conscience about it anyway. That my father used to always say, some people just don't have a conscience. He used to always say that. And say it, say it strangely enough out of context with everything as though he understood it. Because most of the people that I used to see around him, I didn't actually think didn't have a conscience. In fact, I don't think they would have thought one way or the other, but he seemed to think that. But maybe he was just saying they were immoral or something because he was old-fashioned, but I doubt that. I think it was coming more from inside, that even the conscience is really what you think is correct. That's probably open to debate. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to be some sort of philosopher and it's ridiculous. I don't feel qualified to be doing that at all. And in light of the reality, I really feel like, it's kind of funny because it's like there's a revulsion of the demigods, even low, and a revulsion at yourself for being so attracted to them. Even for me to watch the last few videos over the last few hours, it's like I should be avoiding these things like it's death to a human being, really. And yet what you're seeing is all human in the demigods. So it's a very, very, it's a real dilemma. Yeah, that word. Is conundrum another word that it means the same thing to where, but really there is none. It's just that you don't, if you walk away from the demigods, then you're like, where do you walk to? It's only those that have a better thing to walk to or to lean to or to take some sort of inspiration from, shall we say, or some sort of strength from at this time, that are in a good position, shall we say. Yeah, because even like I'm like, I know that there should be something else, but basically you're separate from it all. You've been kept from it. Whereas everything else that is familiar to you now seems alien. And that's it's a frightening, it's a terrifying thing if you think about it. And I don't like to think about it, but some days you're really forced to think about it. And most days you're so incredibly aware of the matrix. So you are living in that fear state, which is the reverse. But you see what I'm saying is that demigod world you have to walk away from. And yet it's all you've ever known. It's what's been most familiar to you. It's what's been a comfort even. Even low, you probably might say, hey, I shouldn't be following other apparent human beings just because they do this or that. And they're already you can see that they're demigods. You can see that they're idols, or icons even, as they call them now. You know, when you've been an idol for a long, long time and you've got so many people that follow you for years and years, then you become an icon. That's even bigger still. But, these icons icon is really, I think someone said that on a video. Icon is icon you. Icon, that's interesting. Yeah, I thought that was actually very clever, and it's actually true. They're like, icon you. Yeah, an icon you, because they do con you, because they're conning you with your best qualities. They're conning a human being with all that is human in humanity to worship them. That's what an icon really is. And even if you didn't believe any matrix or any of the stuff we talk about or any of the stuff I complain about, it wouldn't matter. They still would be an icon, would still be an icon you, because you know that you are being seduced by something that is not real, something you don't even know. If I watch a movie star and I think that person is just it, so glamorous, so wonderful, all this sort of stuff, and I love the movie and all this sort of stuff, like I watched The Innocents and I actually like an actress that I don't even think is is even one of my favourites, or even one that I would normally, I wouldn't put the poster up on the wall sort of thing. That's icon you. I've seduced you. You don't know me, and I've conned you. It's one thing to be conned by a psychopath or a narcissist that lives next door, or that you meet, or that you actually know, to be conned by a person you're actually talking to. That's one thing. That's understandable to some extent, but we are conned by people we don't even know, through a technological device, through a movie, through a video, a music video, through what someone that we've never actually personally come face to face with even. And we worship that person and are conned. They become an icon or an idol. Or we become a fan. We might say the word fan, but it's still the same thing. You worship that person, you respect that person when you don't know them. You feel you know them. You don't. You know you don't. You know you're being conned, but you actually don't acknowledge that being conned. You say, no, they're real. You say they're real, it's just that I'm seeing them through a technological device because they're on the other side of the world or something like this. Well, look, most of the movies I watch, most of the people that are in the movies, oh dear, my head feels like something else. It's not even a headache, it just doesn't feel like it's my head on my body. That is not how a human being is supposed to feel. I shouldn't have said that, but I couldn't help it because it put me off my track. But because the Matrix is not keen when you say you shouldn't, that you're conned by the icons. They want you to love the icons. You know, like I'm still conned by movie stars that are dead. They're not even alive. So there's no possibility of me ever even meeting them. But because I like to watch the old movies. And if they're still alive, they wouldn't look like they looked in the movies, so they wouldn't con me as much anyway. You know, they'd be probably just as bad as me at a physical level. Only because some of them do degenerate too more, because they do muck a lot more with nature, you know, and because they are the demigods. So they need a lot of artificial help to keep themselves physically and mentally presentable and going even. But they get plenty of that. But either way, you know, they don't worry too much about that, I don't think, because I think they have their own beliefs. You know, most humans think they live and die in a limited span, and they live in fear of ill health and all that stuff, as we've mentioned. But most of them actually do believe in their own technology and stuff. So they believe longevity can be given to them through their technology and stuff. And those that are the demigods and that worship and stuff, you know, have no doubt that this will come to them. They're promised this, and they believe in it, you know. And they see it too behind the scenes, I would imagine, because, you know, it's like everything else, isn't it? If you can see more, technology can be very impressive, as I said before, you know. Just as medical stuff can be impressive, you know, but underneath it all, and I have been led to see this recently and told it too, of course, when I made my first videos, I was aware of this, but it's interesting that it is still nice, or kind of to have a real person clarify something and to put it into real terms, into the real reality, to say, yes, what you think about things is so, but this is what is really happening to at a physical level. And that proves that the human body and the human being is valuable. A valuable resource to the matrix and to its beings. Whereas they are, you know, we're led to believe that technology is a great benefit and resource to us, but actually it's not. We got it the wrong way around. Theirs is limited, but we're led to believe that it's the future because they use humans and technology as well. But their technology is running out. Their time is running out. That's why they have to party. That's why they have to take more from the human being. And that's why they have to take over a human being, because they're desperately clinging on to a life force to keep going, to get nourishment. Because, real life is somehow, I don't understand it, but hey, it makes sense in a way. You know, if you're a human, you sort of always thought that, just that we've been led and have been deliberately led away from what we always used to know, that a human being was the only life source. You know, all this business of, we're not alone in the universe, but we always thought we are. Well, the real truth is we are alone in the universe, or in the matrix as the case may be. But the thing is that, look, we are the only life source, the only real life source. Always have been and always will be. It's just that we've been deluded because we're in a matrix into, oh dear, there's the one plane anyway, there's a plane. And actually I can't hear it too well anyway, but that's actually a bad thing, because I would like I like to be balanced to where I can hear the sound correctly. But, like myself, completely closed down at a physical level, you feel blocked off and closed off, a bit like when you've got a cold and your nose is all blocked up, and that sort of, it's a bit like that. Um, and see, while you're communicating and making a video, you don't notice it so much because you are going more with the spirit. But that's only because you think you're connecting. Because, like I say, humans are meant to be connected to other human beings. That's their source of to where they have a bit more strength too. Because obviously, yourself, many hands make light work, as they say. Or don't forget that you're talking about a collaborative matrix. Comprised of many, 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 many beings, many minions. So a human being, disconnected as we are from reality, from ourselves, and from the few human beings that are left in the matrix. So, that's putting it in a nutshell. That's the situation, as you well know. And so, yeah, if I'm all blocked up at a physical and mental and even at some sort of, what would you say, some sort of ESP level, everything that I have goes to the matrix. It doesn't go much to fellow human beings. I'm not sure how any are actually, but I would imagine that would depend on your circumstances, because clearly there are still some that are aware of all these things. So someone's getting it from somewhere, but I'm not sure who or what or where it's going. But then again, the matrix probably doesn't care too much, because they get the best of it, and the dregs that are allowed to sift through to other human beings go through to the few human beings. And like myself, you have to make the best of it and try to fathom it out. One has got a very good scenario going. Even low, I'm not sure. I would think that in the centre of this kind of situation, where you have on one side, say, a few real human beings. When I say a few, I mean a few in comparative numbers to the matrix minions that are like on this side. They have full control over the whole matrix. But I would think that there's people in the centre, and who knows who or what they are, right? That are not like humans that have been woken up, whether through the matrix or through their own initiative, which is how it probably should be, unlike myself, or those that knowingly are part of the matrix and believe in that. There could be some that are stuck in the centre, that are like in no man's land, kind of like it said in the video, lost. They do love the lost ones, or the lost so-called souls, or whatever. Lost souls, I think that was a movie. Yeah, lost humans, lost people. They love those that are or stuck between as it said in that same video, stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea. I don't know what that means, but you know what I'm saying. That's also why some of us are taken over by the matrix, like myself. I say taken over or controlled much more openly by the matrix, even without any deception whatsoever, almost, because those that are in no man's land, or the lost souls that are playing for the Matrix, but like I say, not aware they're playing for the Matrix. Worshipping the demigods, but not aware that they're worshipping demigods. They know they're worshipping demigods, but they don't know what the demigods' true beliefs are. They don't know that the demigods are part of this collective of the Matrix that is like a total belief system. It's a belief system by all those that rule the Matrix. I'm not sure why I use the word system. But it implies that it's a collaborative thing, that they all agree on this scenario that's going down in the end of this video type game reality. That's just putting it fancy. Video type reality just simply means that everything is being controlled and staged and you know, that everything around me is like getting negative vibration off me, that sort of thing. It's it doesn't matter whether even real humans are part of it or whether it's the Matrix ones completely. Matters not. It still means that, you know, like if you've got if you're in a neighbourhood where everyone is making your life difficult, you know, you don't really care who or what they are. You just know that that's been put up round you. Be a bit like, I suppose I could use examples of that, you know, like a bit like if you had well, you know, any group of people that have certain beliefs, if they think that other people are not of that belief, sometimes they will attack those people or suppress them. If you're not part of the gang, then you're not, you know, then they sort of want to fight you, that type of thing. You know, you have gang fights, war, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I really don't. But, you know, that's always been like a human sort of thing, that we tend to accept that different people have their different groups. They have even beliefs, you know, have always divided people, you know. In fact, beliefs and, like I said, I'm not of the denominations of any of the world denominations, but, you know, you see, you know, many wars and battles have been waged in the past based only on beliefs and who you should worship or who you shouldn't, and, you know, what rules you should follow and what you shouldn't, what is the ideal reality, what's acceptable, what's not, all this sort of thing, how you should be, how you should think about people, how you should think about different ideas. And the fact that, as I've said before, we've changed those a lot in recent times. You know, the human mind should, I actually often think, you know, like I say, hey, not so much how my own mind has even been changed, but I often think, hey, you know, of course mine has been, but I would say that mine's been infiltrated and conditioned from very young. I think that these days, or not these days, but in recent times, you know, a lot of human beings have totally changed their mind about a whole lot of things that in the past or previous times they would have thought completely different about. That's what you call mind takeover, mind influence, or mind control. It's really an influence that then becomes acceptable, and then it becomes control and reality, to where you say, well, look, I might not have thought that was a good idea, you know, 30 years ago, but now I can see that I was wrong, or you might not have even thought too much about it, but gradually your whole way of looking at things has changed. If everyone says that something's acceptable and the norm and desirable now, most people tend to agree with that. They don't sort of go back and say, 40 years ago we'd have thought that was perhaps not a positive thing. And that happens through many things. You know, like I say, even now we do things differently. We communicate differently. We make things differently. We use technology and science and different things in ways that we would have considered unacceptable, undesirable, unbeneficial even in years past. Even the way we do things, I now see everything as a total negative. Even things that I would have said were a positive or a benefit, I'd say no, they should not be allowed to be happening. And this is why I'm not at the Matrix. You know, things that if I said some things to people right now that I consider should not be happening, they'd say you're out of your mind. They'd say, but that helps solve something. A bit like, oh, you know, you shouldn't use forensic to solve a crime, or you shouldn't use science or medicine to solve a crime or to benefit or to help a human being that is sick get healthy again. All this sort of stuff. That's just putting it at a basic level. You say, no, we shouldn't do that. Are you for real? And you couldn't say it to people even. You'd have to keep that thought to yourself. The Matrix, of course, knows what you think, and so it's not so keen. But essentially that's because if you're coming from an angle where you know that these things are not really a benefit, that they're really anti-life, and that they are not serving you at all, if you really knew that as a truth and you could prove it like you know in yourself, then what you think is not so invalid or so, ridiculous, shall we say. But while you operate from the Matrix way of thinking, and, you know, oh, it's acceptable to do certain things because they're a benefit in some other way. Well, look, that's only because you don't hold, and also it doesn't appear to be valid in the Matrix because, you know, I've said this before and I'm going to have to fold up here. You know, to my way of thinking now, and most people would laugh, and of course they laugh at me because I'm like saying I don't, you know, like I've often said, oh, I should go to 96 or something. This is being personal. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I'd be lucky to make it, you know, I'm struggling to get through each year. Of course, this is another point. That's even in a Matrix world. I would have expected to live a certain time. But what I am saying is that if you knew that you were in a Matrix and the only reason even the lifespan is limited because of the reality that you're living in an artificial world, whereas if you were living in a real world, you're a real human being, you live in a real world, there would not be sickness. The lifespan would, you know, you wouldn't need to do the unnatural things that you do to try to extend your life. You're not meant to try to extend your life. You don't need to. That doesn't make sense, does it? What I'm saying is that you only have to do all that because you're in a matrix, because you're fighting continual illnesses and attacks on the body. In a real world, you know, where humans are in a correct environment, as opposed to an unnatural anti-life matrix environment, humans could literally just live on and on, even in, you know, in their natural world kind of thing, I would imagine. You know, they would probably choose, you know, I mean, I'm going off into Faraday here, but I do think that there would be huge longevity, you know. There would be no reason for the human body to not be able to repair itself and sustain itself quite for huge amounts of time. You know, and there would be no need for all the medicine and medical stuff that we have. Most of the medical stuff we have is of the Matrix, for the Matrix, of the Matrix, part if humans knew that and realised that, it would be a totally different ball game, as they say. But that's not something that's going to happen. It's something that even I, only